Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we're back with another slime video. And today is all about science, testing, and determining how effective the newest kind of big-time buff or debuff is, the Light Raphael's Alt Resistance Down, and how it compares to a lot of the other big-time buffs. So we're going to go into a neutral Predator battle, and we're going to use this specific team. So we've got Space Millum with the hero attached as our DPS. Those stats will remain constant and will not change. And then we're just going to, go through all the big time buffs. We're going to use Space Millum by herself as a baseline, use the space buff, and then not use the space buff, but use the alt resist down, and then the crit, and then the alt, and then Light Millum's 45% attack buff. And we'll compare, what buff really does the most for a single target DPS by itself. So this will just be a whole bunch of Millum alting clips with random buffs activated, so that's about it. So I'll see you guys when we're ready for the first nuke. Alright, so we're here, we're going to establish the baseline damage of Space Millum's alt, that way we have something to compare it to. So let's see how much damage we do, and then we can start adding the buffs. 20,332. 20,332, give or take. Probably could have read it wrong, but that is a good standard baseline. Let us now come back with the space buff active, and we'll see how much that changes. Alright, I figured it'd be easier just to build up a double alt, that way we don't even have to cut, we can just use one after the other. So, we have not used any stacks of Veldora, obviously we have not stacked up anything, we've not increased our skill cap. So our baseline was 20.3, and let's now add the 50% space buff with no other modifier, no Drago. And we'll find out how much damage this does and how far it goes up. So 20.3 is now 29.7? 29.7 something like that? Alright. It's very fast. I could be wrong, but I see 27. So, as long as we get the primary damage number, it's fine. So now we have another alt, so now let's use the alt buff instead, which I can't because I have no points, so let's go ahead and build that up. So maybe it would have been a good idea to maybe stack some points, but oh well. Alright, we have enough now. Okay, so now let's use the alt buff from Dark Millum. She gives herself her own attack buff, which is inconsequential because Space Millum ain't using that. So now we just have the 70%, and this comes out to 34.5. 34.5. We're just going to put a flat number there. I don't care about the last two. Alright, so the 70% alt buff definitely does the most damage as far as that's concerned. We can probably just not make a cut at all. Okay, so last up. Next we have the alt resist down, I guess. Or maybe we'll save that for last. And we'll bring in the new Light Millum and her 45% attack buff. I think, yeah, that's what we'll do. Just to see. I know Millum has Drago, she gives herself her own attack buff. Oh, we have the guaranteed crit, though. I forgot about that, too. So, crit by itself isn't the greatest modifier in the world, but it is a modifier, right? Like, Violet has guaranteed pierce, guaranteed crit. No one's giving her extra crit damage. She's giving her 15% pierce power, which is nice. Alright, so the crit now makes us do 28.8. 28.8. So just shy of the space buff, actually. That's not bad. That is not bad. Alright, let's build up more points and we'll come back when we have another double alt. Alright, we're back for the last two parts. I did use a Veldora stack, but I made sure that Millum was not here just so I'd have enough points to use both of these without having to, spend an extra turn getting points. So we're still at 17% space attack. It has not been stacked up at all. But, Raphael does have, an extra 10% space attack, not that it actually matters. So, now we're going to use the 45% attack buff from the new AoE Light Millum. And also, Light Resistance Down doesn't matter, because again, we're not nuking with a light unit. So how much does a 45% attack buff change our damage? So far, our highest is the 34.5 with the 70% alt boost. Let's see if we can get somewhere close to that. And this ends up with 29.7. 29.7 with attack. Okay, so that is a little bit more than the space buff, actually. Just a tiny bit. and more than the crit by itself. But like if you're using the hero, you're getting crit resistance down, so there's some extra damage there. If you're using like the dark team, then obviously the 40% dark damage is going to come into effect as well. But now let us compare how much all these numbers do when using the alt resist down and the pierce rate. So we're going to get technically two buffs. The pierce rate by itself does not give you a lot of damage. The most like the whole reason the pierce team works is because you're buffing your pierce power. Pierce by itself is not a great buff. You need something else to modify it. So we're going to give that, and then we're going to see, because I mean it's the same skill. It's all contained, right? Sorry. So you're going to use it together, whether or not someone else is actually buffing your pierce. But let's see if we can break the 34.5k barrier with this skill, and it's a debuff. So we do 31.3. 31.3. Alt debuff. Okay, so what we've determined is that let's go all the way down here. Alright, so what we've determined is that the base number 20,000, and then next up is the, let's see, I believe the attack buff was actually higher than the 13 points, so I think that goes there, and then that goes there, and then that goes there, and then that goes there. Nope, okay, this goes there. Alright, so at the end of the day, the alt buff does still, give you the most damage possible. But the alt debuff actually gives you more than a guaranteed crit, a 45% attack buff, or a 50% space buff, which actually is pretty impressive. I expected it to do more than the attack and the crit by itself, but not a 50% space buff. So, I mean, yeah, there's some science for you, in case you ever wanted to know. I was asked this question last night during my Valor Cup stream, and I was like, you know what, I haven't tested it yet. I know that it does a lot, and I know that this does more than the 60% permanent alt damage that the Dark Octagram Valentine can give, right? Because, this and the 70% is not far off, but that minus that 10% on the alt, and it actually does a little bit less, only by a bit, only by a tiny, tiny amount, but it is still better than Val's fully boosted alt buff, so I mean, it's good to know. Obviously, if you're going to want to nuke with, like, for big mommy damage numbers like I did in my Tempered Edge video with Space Millum, obviously you're going to use literally all of these. You're going to have Drago, you're going to have the space buff, you're going to have the crit, you're going to have the alt debuff, and you're going to have the alt, and a whole bunch of stacks as well, and that's going to push your damage to almost 1 million. So it's a good way to do it. But, in case you ever wondered, the alt buff is still the best standalone attack buff, and then it follows in this. The Pierce and Pierce power from like Dark Xion would probably be somewhere in between the attack buff and the crit buff right here, but it would be more than the space buff. But we didn't test that, so and that's fine. You're not using Dark Xion, right? Let's be real. So there's your hierarchy: alt debuff, guaranteed crits with no other modifier. A straight up 45% attack buff, the 50% space buff, and then the base damage. So yeah, there's some science for you. You probably didn't ask for it, but I did it anyways. Someone asked for it, so I have appeased them. If you have a different video idea you want me to try out, then please leave it in the comments below. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you later.